The mountain bike establishment views them with suspicion. Strange renegades from the remote planet BMX. Covered with body armor, part aerodynamic missile, part motocrosser. They are fearless downhillers. Their sport cuts right to the chase. You launch yourself from the top of the mountain and then see just how fast you can propel yourself to the bottom without doing a major face plant. Today, the very fastest downhillers in the country will be competing for the title King of the Hill as ESPN brings you the final round of the United States National Mountain Bike Championships. From Helen, Georgia, it's the Jeep National Championship Mountain Bike Series. Today, featuring the GT Downhill Championship. And it's brought to you by GT Bicycles, not your typical mountain bike, and by Jeep and Eagle, a division of the Chrysler Corporation. A warm and humid day as we welcome you to the Alpine village of Helen, Georgia, and the final stop on the GT National Downhill Series. Hello once again, everybody. I'm Peter Graves. Happy to be with you. You know, it's hard to believe after all the stops on our downhill series this year, it's come down to just 1 point that separates our men's and women's leaders. Look at this. It is Mike King in second, Miles Rockwell at the top, Kim Sonye and Elke Brutzert, all separated by 1 point. Unbelievable. And then you have the Mongoose twins that are waiting to jump into the fray, Lee Donovan and Brian Lopes, should anybody falter. We'll be right back with the start of qualifying. Don't go away.
It's here where the battlefields have names like Mammoth, Kirchgarten, and Camp.
Peter Graves and Bob Hadley back with you for the final round of the GT Downhill Championship. We have a controversy brewing here in Helen, Georgia. In every other sport, the competitors always want a level playing field. Today, we have a very different situation. The downhillers think the playing field is too level. In fact, they've threatened to boycott the race because they feel the course is too flat. Let's take a look at this great flat earth debate of 1995. First, here's what the riders had to say.
The course here at Helen, Georgia is sort of cross-country-ish. it's a point-to-point cross-country race. This is no downhill, really. It's sort of flat, so.
When I first rode it the very first day, I was pretty bummed out. It's not much of a descent.
It doesn't go downhill except in a couple spots, and it predominantly goes uphill.
When you see a downhill skier, do you ever see them going uphill?
I'm not even out of my middle chain rings, which is like a 36. But that gives you some spinning just the whole time.
To me, it's in a lot of ways insulting to the riders to make us race a downhill on this course.
We're downhill racers. We want downhill in our race.
Of course, there are always two sides to every story. Now here's what the sanctioning body and race promoter had to say.
Well, Norba feels the best way to find a national champion is through consistency. So not all downhills in the National Championship Series for downhilling are the same. Therefore, you're going to have a variety of terrain. You're going to have alpine courses with high speed, and you're going to have courses like this. The national champion is determined by a variety of courses over the course of a season.
All of this put rider Mike King in a very uncomfortable position. Just 1 point out of the series lead, he had to decide to race or not to race.
I think I was in a unique situation because the GT sponsors a downhill, and I'm in the championship hunt, so, you know, I'm all for the boycott, but at the same time, I need to let my manager and the owners of GT, I got to get a response from them. I can't just make a decision based on what the majority wants to do. If Miles wants to give up his championship and Brian, then I'm just more than willing. It's hard to say for the other people that spend their money to come out here and are working hard to attain that corporate sponsor, that free ride. You know, those guys didn't necessarily say they were going to boycott the race. They wanted to race because, you know, they want our jobs.
With their jobs possibly on the line, the riders decided to put on their best game faces and go racing.
Fans came out to see us, and our sponsors. Diamondback's the best sponsor I could have right now. They're the best sponsor anyone could ask for, and I want to do the best I can for them and all the people that showed up. So that's what I'm going to do. we got a race. At this point, I'm just kind of glad for it to be over for me, so I'm kind of looking forward to it.
I've got my seat raised real high, and I've got basically my pedaling face on, so I'm going to be cranking my little buns off down the hill.
So, with the controversy behind us, we turn our attention to the women's qualifying, where the big story here is this rider, Julie Furtado, the 5-time national cross-country champion, entering the downhill.
I've always planned on doing the last race of the year, the downhill, and I'm out here come rain or come shine, and it looks like it's going to rain.
The kind of person that will do well and win on this course is a Julie Furtado, because it is definitely a pro cross-country racer's course.
I definitely lose an edge when I come to try and do these because I'm not ready for just one-run formats and making no mistakes. And I didn't get here early to practice the course and things like that. So there's a lot of work that goes into having to race downhill.
I think Julie may be playing a little possum with us. You know, she was the world downhill champion in 1992, so she's no stranger to descending.
Well, Julie Furtado showed she's lost none of those skills and posted the fastest qualifying time, 6:22.05. Second fastest was Lee Donovan at 6:24.19, and on her run, she caught and passed Elke Brutzart.
I wasn't breathing. I realized how much I was spacing out, that I just wasn't really into it for some reason. So, but anyway, I'll suffer next time. It's not too much sense suffering twice.
Now the men's qualifying. Bob, is there any advantage for going for it on your qualifying run?
A good qualifying time does a couple of things for the riders. It boosts their confidence level going into the final run, and it gives you a later starting position, which can sometimes be advantageous depending on the course conditions. The downside, of course, is if you try too hard in qualifying, you may never make it to the finals.
Todd Tanner, 6th in series points, had a very good qualifying run, 5:39.96, 4th fastest. Then it was flying Brian Lopes. Lopes is 3rd in the series, just 5 points out of 1st, and his qualifying run put him 3rd fastest.
And Brian is really smoking. He wants that national championship. And 2nd fastest at 5:37.46 was Darren Stockton. It's the first time he's qualified in the top 3.
But the fastest qualifier was, no surprise, the series leader, Miles Rockwell, at 5:36.22.
Well, Miles said he had to pedal his buns off, and he did just that in this qualifying run.
Miles Rockwell and Julie Furtado are our fastest qualifiers. We'll have the finals when we come back. Stay on board. The GT National Downhill Championships. I'm David Stanfield along with Bob Hadley, and with this very flat, muddy course here at Helen, Georgia, we've seen a lot of riders switch from their high-tech, full suspension bikes to their trusty old hardtails.
I'm riding my hardtail because it's a little lighter than my full suspension bike, and the course isn't exactly rough. It's pretty smooth out here.
Well, this is not a commercial. This Trek carbon fiber suspension bike is as light as a lot of their hardtails. And there are some bumps out there that you want to be able to suck up with the bike and not have to use energy from your body. So it's really not very bumpy. It's not technically demanding. It's all pedaling. So I figured if it's all pedaling, might as well ride the bike that makes most sense in terms of that. So.
Now everyone is looking for the advantage here at the finals. And Marla Streb has her own speed secrets, as our ESPN2 cameras discovered.
Is that your weenie?
Yeah, but it's a secret. I'm sure you guys won't tell anybody.
Well, a hit of caffeine might be the perfect ticket to blast you down this course. Last time there was this much pedaling, Marla got 2nd. That was in Spokane, Washington.
I think being so smooth and trying to stay in the tracks. Because if you start going out of the tracks, you're in like mud this deep. And also sort of pacing yourself. You don't want to like blow yourself on the first little climb. That's my secret.
Here comes Marla Streb, covered with mud and headed for the finish line. And a time of 6:36.86. That puts her on top of the leaderboard.
And Marla surely wants to get those points to move up in the final standings.
First and second in this very tight battle for the series championship are Kim Saunier with 231 points and Elke Brutzart just 1 point behind at 230. Now Kim wants to win the war, not necessarily the battle.
Julie can win it for all I care, as long as I beat Elke.
Well, I'm shooting to beat Kim. That's what I need to do to win the overall title. I don't necessarily need to win overall. That's my goal.
You know, that's that's basically it for the national championship, as long as neither one of us really blows it and Lee pulls off a win. But yeah, it's tough.
Kim Saunier in the starting gate. She was only 8th fastest in her qualifying time, a time of 6:55.99. Marla Streb is the fastest so far at 6:36.86.
Well, Kim's the defending champion, so she's been in this position before, but she's still hampered by a broken thumb from almost a month ago. She has to concentrate and carry as much speed as possible through those turns, and then pedal like mad on those climbs.
Here comes Kim Saunier onto the lower part of the course, trying to maintain her speed as she hammers towards the finish line. Avoiding the deep mud. Gonna trip the timing light, 6:41.90. And now it's Elke Broutsart, second in series points. She must better Kim's time to have any hope for the championship.
And Elke wasn't happy at all with her qualifying run, but she's really turning it on now. If she can keep it up, she should have a good run. She's much smoother than Kim looked through here.
Elke Broutsart looking for that magical time, and she's going to turn in a 6:39.39. Elke Broutsart betters Kim Saunier's time. It gets really interesting. Lee Donovan in the gate. If my math is correct, if she beats Marla Streb's time, she will be the 1995 GT Downhill champion.
An entire season of racing, and it's all come down to this one run. And Lee looks extra smooth going over those bumps and carving around those turns. Going into the mud, and she holds her line, carrying her speed, and gets a little encouragement from the trackside spectators.
Remember, the time she needs to beat, 6:36.86.
And Lee's hoping to carry her luck from 2 weeks ago when she won her first ever GT Downhill in Michigan.
Lee Donovan not making any mistakes out there today, heading toward the final turn. This is for the series championship and a time of 6:20.57. Yes, Lee Donovan has done it by a whole bunch. But we still have one more rider who can win today's race, the wild card, Julie Furtado. However, keep in mind, Julie is racing in the cross-country finals tomorrow, so she doesn't want to risk an injury.
That still won't hold Julie back from going all out. She wants to win this race. She's not in contention for the overall title, but by winning, she could get an automatic berth on the team that goes to the World Championship.
Here she comes, Julie Furtado. Donovan's time, 6:20.57. Julie's time, 6:18.66. Julie Furtado takes the win. And your GT Downhill winners are top four: Julie Furtado, Lee Donovan, Marla Streb, and Susan Tobias.
This course definitely was a specialty for Julie. It was a lot of pedaling, and my goal was to just beat her. I really wanted to beat her, and you know, she beat me by 2 seconds, and that was a little disappointing for me, but it showed me where I'm at. I think that was impressive for myself to know, you know, as strong as Julie is, that I did as well as I did.
And speaking of doing well, Lee Donovan also takes the paycheck for winning the series championship. Elke Broutsart second, Kim Saunier third. Next, it's the men's finals, so get ready to play in the mud. Georgia for the GT National Downhill Championships as the men line up for their final runs.
These guys are used to 50-mile-an-hour downhills and getting big air, but today it's going to take some very different skills to win.
Well, this one's just going to be a tremendous effort put out on all the riders as far as we're going to have to pedal really hard along a lot of flat and some uphill and some thick mud, so you just have to concentrate on your pedaling and try not to make any mistakes in the corners and fall down. Well, everybody has to ride it, so you know, we'll try to just make the best of a bad situation.
On course now is Miles Davis of Australia.
And Australia's produced some terrific downhillers in addition to Miles. There's Scott Sharples and Michael Ronning.
Miles Davis time 5:32.80, the fastest so far. A lot of top riders like defending champion John Tomac have struggled in this Georgia clay. Tomac's time 5:37.56. Here's Toby Henderson, Team Iron Horse, 5:49.48. He was 18th.
And Todd Tanner came down and he got a little bit out of shape. Just shows you what this Georgia clay can do. Once you slide out like that, it just drains everything out of your time.
Todd Tanner trying to maintain his speed, but crossed the finish line 19th, 5:50.85. Now the shootout for the national championship. Mike King currently second, just 1 point behind the leader, Miles Rockwell. And lurking in third, only 5 points back, is Brian Lopes. Any one of these three can take the title. Mike King is on course.
Mike's the 1993 World Downhill Champion, and he's raced on the toughest courses on the planet. And he has some very definite ideas of what a downhill course should be like.
It's got to be really hard. You've got to really work the skills. You've got to throw in a fitness course, a fitness section. It's got to be combined pretty well, where athletes that are really fit can do well, and then the riders that just got the skills can really work it.
Mike King really working this Helen course. I'm sure he would have preferred a little different layout, but he can't be thinking about that now.
Mike's just flying down this course. He's carrying a lot of speed. You can see that mud just flinging off his tires. Other riders were getting bogged down.
Well, he pours it on at the finish, a time 5:21.48. So now Mike King has the time to beat, and the man trying to do just that is Brian Lopes. He's on course.
Brian's a powerful rider and very smooth, and in mud like this, he can really exploit that advantage.
You're right, he's got a great combination, quick, light, powerful, and smooth, but he might have lost a little steam on that last climb.
Well, for sure, these downhillers don't like all this climbing. But Brian uses every inch of the track. He uses the berms. Oh, a little bobble there. Fortunately, it's a slow turn, and it shouldn't cost him very much.
Brian Lopes through the mud. He's got a good run going. The big question, does he have enough left for the final sprint? Here he comes. Lopes looks at the finish line in a high gear, pumping through the mud, 5:20.31, and Brian Lopes moves into the lead. We have one final rider. It's Miles Rockwell. To tie Brian Lopes for the championship, he must better Mike King's time. To win the championship, he must beat Lopes' time. Remember, he set the fastest time in qualifying, but it was some 16 seconds slower than the time he needs to turn in now.
Well, Miles is a big, strong guy who likes to let it all hang out. He has all the power, but he's real big, and in this mud, it just tends to sink him in.
Hey, this is the finals. The championship's on the line. You do what you gotta do. He's going after it.
And in this case, going after it means putting every last ounce of energy into it and pedaling every place he possibly can.
Miles Rockwell giving it his all through the mud. Mike King's time, 5:21.48. Brian Lopes' time, 5:20.31. Here comes Miles. One final push, 5:24.58. It's not good enough. So third place for the Volvo Cannondale rider. Brian Lopes wins the race and the series championship. Mike King second, Rockwell third, fourth and fifth to the Aussies, Sharples and Davis.
I'm just trying to go my fastest, and I know Mikey and Miles, Tomac, they're all super fast guys, and when you have that many fast guys, sometimes it just comes down to one race. And today I was just fortunate enough to have a good run.
Yeah, it does say something about us being strong, but the fact is that it took complete power the whole way down to get to the bottom, so it really isn't a good downhill, and I'm just a little disappointed. I was close in the championships, and I'm third today, so it's too bad.
That's just racing. It definitely hurts really bad, and I hope I can just think about that all in the off season and just come out with a vengeance.
A very disappointed Mike King, coming up just 1 point short to Brian Lopes in the final series point standings. Rockwell third, Tomac fourth, Henderson fifth.
Mike's going to win next week in Caprune and be the World Cup champion. Yeah, he's going to smoke him. I know he will. That's in the back of my mind, and that's what I got to think about. I can't let this race affect me. I got to go in there with real vengeance because I want to win that World Cup really bad.
The 1995 GT Downhill National Champions Lee Donovan and Brian Lopes enjoying the spoils of victory. We'll see more of them next in the dual slalom. Stick around.
Putting on a great show here, but how about...
Peter Graves, along with David Stanfield, back with you for the dual slalom. Going into the final round, the Mongoose twins, Brian Lopes and Lee Donovan, pretty much had the championships locked up.
In order for me to retain my national title, I had to eliminate Lee Donovan in the very first round in order for me to go on, because she was 10 points ahead of me. So therefore, in the qualifying rounds, I missed the gate on purpose to be seated last in the finals so I could go against Lee Donovan, anticipating that she would try to get fastest time to go head-to-head in the very first round. It's just a gamble. It's a toss-up 50-50 chance, especially since the course is muddy, slippery, and I just took a chance. And Lee Donovan, she definitely deserves to go on. She's smooth run.
There's strategies that are played, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't.
She took a big chance on me because I've definitely dominated this year. And, I mean, my qualifying times are much faster than everybody else's. So that's fine. You know, she gambled it. And it could have worked out for her. And for me, I'm glad that it didn't.
Now with her championship securely locked up, Lee Donovan on the right goes up against Mickey Douglas in the consolation race for third place. They are dead even. Both the riders really attacking the course up and over the hump. They're still dead even. Now Lee Donovan starts to pull ahead. One final sprint, and she's going to take it. Lee Donovan, third place. The women's finals, Kim Saunier on the left, Mercedes Gonzalez on the right.
Both of these ladies are former motocross racers and very good ones.
Kim Saunier with an early advantage, but here comes Mercedes Gonzalez. She is explosive. Now really pouring it on. Will she take it? Yes, she does. And excited Mercedes Gonzalez scores her first dual slalom win of the year.
So happy. I'm so ecstatic. Keep saying somebody pinch me. I don't think it's for real.
It's real.
It's real.
A very real victory for the GT rider. Kim Saunier second, Lee Donovan third. But she takes the series championship and yet another paycheck. Kim Saunier second, Sherry Elliott third. And now, you want to see some flawless riding? Let's take a look at the men's semifinal. Dave Cullinan on the left, Brian Lopes on the right.
Look at these two go at it. Absolutely picture-perfect riding in the slalom.
Cully over the first jump. Now here comes Brian Lopes, cutting the last gate at the finish. It's Lopes by less than a half a foot.
When you try a little bit less and you just let things flow and you kind of just, let the bike take you where you want to go, looks like you're not trying as hard. Some of the other people, they look like they're trying really hard. They're kind of out of control, and that makes them look like they're going fast, but they're really not. They're just cutting seconds off their time by, whatever they may be doing, sliding out or being aggressive. And you just got to in slalom, it's just being smooth and keeping consistent and not making any mistakes.
Now the men's consolation. Kurt Voorhees on the left, Dave Cullinan on the right.
Voorhees has a slight advantage, but Cully is very fast at the bottom of the course.
Cullinan now in front. Cullinan on the blue course takes it. The men's final is coming up next. Cullinan looks over his shoulder. Here's what he sees. Eric Carter on the left, Brian Lopes on the right, and Carter gets the jump at the start.
And Lopes gets wide on that gate, and Eric Carter is going to take the advantage on that very rare mistake by the champion.
Lopes trying to catch up. Here he comes, but can he do it? Eric Carter, the upset winner.
I just told myself, get in front of him, pressure him into a mistake, and that's the first one he's made all year, so.
Today's race results, Eric Carter, Brian Lopes, Dave Cullinan, and Kurt Voorhees. Now let's take a look at the Norba Championships Reebok Dual Slalom Series Finals. Overall champion Brian Lopes, followed by Eric Carter and Dave Cullinan.
Well, that wraps it up on our GT Downhill season here on ESPN. For David Stanfield, Bob Hadley, and all the riders, this is Peter Graves saying until next year, so long, everybody. The GT Downhill has been brought to you by GT Bicycles, not your typical mountain bike, and by Jeep and Eagle, a division of the Chrysler Corporation.